A man was once lost in the desert, disoriented, dehydrated, burning beneath the weight of the sun. Days passed. He wandered through silence, sand, and the slow fading of hope. Until one evening, just before collapsing, he knelt in the dust and whispered one phrase, not a plea, not a question, but a declaration. "Thank you for the water I'm about to receive." That night, it rained. Not because he begged, not because he searched, but because in that moment, his vibration became one of completion, not lack. Gratitude, real gratitude, is not what happens after the miracle. It is what unlocks the miracle. We've been trained backwards, conditioned to believe that gratitude is a polite response to receiving, an after-the-fact reaction to something good finally happening. But the universe doesn't work that way. The quantum field doesn't wait for results to deliver resonance. It waits for resonance to deliver results. And gratitude, when embodied before the gift, becomes a tuning fork for the exact frequency of manifestation. But here's the paradox. Most people block their desires not because they don't want them, but because they won't feel grateful until they see them. That's not how energy moves. That's not how timelines bend. You don't get the thing and then feel aligned. You feel aligned, and then the thing must arrive. Gratitude is not a reward. It is an instruction to the field. Here's the trap most don't see. When you're constantly focused on what's missing, even in subtle ways, waiting, wondering, wishing, you're emitting the vibration of separation. You're reinforcing to the quantum field, "I am not that yet." And the field, in its perfect neutrality, reflects that frequency with stunning precision. It mirrors who you are, not what you want. But when you feel grateful now, before anything shifts, you collapse the illusion of time. You stop projecting the thing into the future and begin embodying the version of you who already has it. In that moment, the universe adjusts, not out of mercy but out of coherence, because coherence is what the field responds to. Not noise, not begging, not repetition, but internal alignment. Think of gratitude like an address. When you say thank you before receiving, you're telling the quantum GPS exactly where you live, in the vibration of wholeness. And manifestation is nothing more than delivery to that address. But if you're vibrating in, "I'll believe it when I see it," your signal says, "I don't live there yet," and the delivery stays pending. Now, let's widen the lens. Why does gratitude matter so much in manifestation? Because it changes the observer. The observer effect in quantum mechanics shows us that particles remain in an infinite field of probability until observed, but the nature of the observation, the emotional and energetic state of the observer, influences the outcome. Gratitude isn't just a good feeling, it's a quantum lens, a filter through which your reality gets collapsed. When you observe your life through gratitude, you don't just feel better, you select better. But don't mistake this for a trick or technique. Gratitude doesn't work when it's forced. It's not a button to push. It's not another item on your spiritual to-do list. Gratitude must be real, embodied, saturated, felt so deeply that it becomes your new identity. Because gratitude is not a feeling you visit. It's a frequency you live in. And this frequency is not passive. It is powerful, magnetic, organizing. It attracts not by pulling, but by matching. The moment you live from gratitude, you start collapsing the timeline where you already have the thing you desire, not because you manipulated reality, but because you finally matched it. Let's pause for a pattern interrupt. What if the single reason your manifestations are delayed isn't lack of clarity, or poor technique, or not doing enough? What if it's just that you haven't felt the arrival yet, that the signal hasn't stabilized long enough to collapse the version of reality you're asking for? What if gratitude is the final switch you forgot to flip? Now breathe into this. What are you waiting to feel grateful for? Love? Freedom? Abundance? What if you gave yourself permission to feel it now? Not hypothetically, not conceptually, but emotionally, fully, with tears, with chills, with the unshakable certainty that it's done. Because here's the quantum truth. The universe doesn't reward delay. It responds to decisive energy. And few energies are more decisive than gratitude. Imagine this: a life where you wake up and thank reality as if the shift has already occurred, where you stop begging for change and start broadcasting completion, where your journal says thank you for the overflowing bank account before the numbers ever rise, where you whisper thank you for the love I now feel before another soul even enters the room. That version of you already exists. Gratitude is how you become them. And from that frequency, life responds, not because you tricked the system, but because you became coherent with the version of reality you were born to live. This is the beginning. In the next chapter, we'll reveal what gratitude does to your brain, your body, and your electromagnetic field, and why the science behind it is even more powerful than the feeling itself. And when you see how it works, you'll never treat gratitude the same again. If you could see your energy the way the universe does, you'd never question the power of gratitude again. Not because it's a virtue, but because it's a vibrational command, a frequency that tells the quantum field, stabilize this version of me, collapse this timeline, align the field with this state. Gratitude is not a reward for getting what you want. It's the signal that what you want is already here. And that signal has a shape. Your thoughts are electric. Your emotions are magnetic. Together, they form a torus field around your body, a dynamic, moving bubble of energy measurable by science and visible in heart rate variability studies. The HeartMath Institute has shown that when a person enters a genuine state of appreciation or gratitude, the heart enters coherence. This isn't poetic language. This is biological precision. The rhythm of the heart becomes smooth, the brain synchronizes, and the entire nervous system shifts from stress to regulation. Why does this matter? Because your field becomes coherent. And a coherent field doesn't just feel good, it broadcasts order into the quantum soup of possibility. It tells reality, I am ready to receive. Gratitude, then, is not emotional fluff. It is a neurochemical reset. In a state of stress, what most people live in by default, the body is in survival. Cortisol spikes, the mind races, the body contracts, the field becomes noisy. And in that noise, your signal weakens. No matter how much you visualize, affirm, or journal, if you are doing it from fear, urgency, or lack, you are sending out chaotic frequencies. The field cannot stabilize around chaos. It waits for coherence. But when you enter gratitude, true, heartfelt gratitude, your brain waves shift from beta into alpha and even theta. Your heart rhythm balances. Your body produces oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin. You literally become a chemical mirror of peace. And that peace is not passive. It's magnetic. It's instructive. It's the signal the universe has been waiting for to activate your desired outcome. Let's deepen this with a metaphor. Imagine your energy as a song. Every thought is a note, every emotion a tone. When you're in anxiety, you're playing dissonant chords, off-key, jarring, incomplete. But gratitude? Gratitude is harmony. It's melody. It's the chorus of your soul singing, I am aligned, and the quantum field. It doesn't respond to volume. It responds to harmony. You don't need to scream your desires into the void. You only need to resonate clearly. And gratitude brings that clarity. Now let's shift into application. You've heard the advice, keep a gratitude journal. But what no one tells you is why it works. When you consciously write what you're grateful for, you're not just making a list. You're shifting your perceptual filters. Specifically, you activate the reticular activating system, ERAS, the part of your brain that decides what to focus on. When you focus on what you already have, the RAS begins to filter for more of it. You start seeing, noticing, and attracting situations that match that frequency. The journal isn't magic. Your shifted awareness is. But here's the part you won't hear in typical spiritual content. Gratitude is not always easy, especially when your external reality contradicts your desire. When the bank account is low, when the relationship is broken, when the future feels uncertain, that's where most people abandon the vibration. They say, how can I be grateful when I'm still waiting? But that's the test. That's the initiatory moment of all powerful creators. Can you hold the frequency even when the facts disagree? Because the field doesn't collapse based on facts. It collapses based on frequency. When you feel gratitude before the evidence, you become a quantum outlier. You're telling the universe, I trust so deeply that I don't need proof. I am the proof. And the universe, always obedient to coherence, responds by adjusting matter around your state of being. Gratitude becomes gravity. Let's explore this through neuroscience. Studies in neuroplasticity show that repeated emotional states hardwire new neural pathways. When you practice gratitude consistently, you're not just shifting your mood, you're rewiring your identity. You begin to associate yourself with abundance, peace, love. You stop identifying with lack. And once your identity changes, your choices change. And when your choices change, your timelines do too. So gratitude isn't a trick for feeling better. It's a strategy for becoming someone else. The version of you who's already living your dream reality. Do you think they feel desperate? Or do they feel blessed? Do they spend their days obsessing over what's missing or basking in what's present? Your answer to that question determines the timeline you're tuning into, because the field only reflects what you consistently radiate. Now here's the mystery no one talks about. Gratitude doesn't just shift your emotional state, it shifts your probability field. In the quantum realm, all outcomes already exist. Gratitude collapses the probability wave toward the one you're emotionally aligned with. That's not theory, that's observable behavior in the lab. A subject's expectation and emotional state changes the particle behavior, simply by observation. Your gratitude is a form of quantum observation, one that encodes the feeling of, it is done. And when that feeling becomes stable, manifestation becomes inevitable. So what do you do now? You don't need more rituals. You need to feel better sooner. You need to choose gratitude not as reaction, but as reality. Start your day by saying thank you for what hasn't yet arrived. Feel into the vibration of receiving, even if it hasn't shown up. Walk with the posture of someone who already has it. Speak like it's already yours. Not to fake it, but to be it. Because when your biology aligns with your belief, the field responds not with delay but with direction. And this is just the beginning of what gratitude can do. In the next chapter, we'll explore how gratitude doesn't just shift your energy once, but builds momentum. You'll discover the gratitude loop that accelerates everything, and why it becomes the gravitational center of your new timeline. And once you feel it, nothing can pull you back. There is a moment when something shifts. It's subtle, almost invisible, but once it happens, momentum takes over. You move from wanting to embodying, from hoping to remembering, from trying to manifest to simply receiving. This shift is the result of what we call the gratitude loop, a self-reinforcing cycle where appreciation begets alignment, alignment begets results, and results deepen appreciation, a virtuous spiral. And once you step into it, it begins to pull you into higher timelines without force. But to enter this loop, you must first do something the ego resists. You must feel thankful for what hasn't yet arrived. Let's break this down. When you feel grateful before something manifests, you send a signal to the quantum field. This is my current identity. You begin to stabilize a new energetic signature, not the one of the seeker, but of the one who already is. And once you're radiating that signal consistently, the field collapses around it. And here's where it gets powerful. Once the manifestation begins to show signs in your life, small synchronicities, unexpected opportunities, subtle shifts, your gratitude intensifies, not because the evidence appeared, but because it confirms what your energy already knew. This creates a feedback loop: gratitude, coherence, manifestation, gratitude, higher coherence, acceleration. Every time you reinforce gratitude, you amplify the emotional imprint of having received. Every time that emotional imprint strengthens, your field gets more coherent. And a coherent field doesn't just influence reality, it reorganizes it. Let's bring in the science. The reticular activating system in your brain acts as a filter. deciding what sensory input to prioritize. When you prime your RAS with gratitude, it starts looking for confirmation, not just passively observing arousal, but actively scanning for matches to your emotional state. The more grateful you are, the more aligned experiences you'll notice, which further feeds your belief. Belief feeds emotion, emotion feeds the field, and the field feeds your timeline. It becomes exponential. This is why people who live in authentic gratitude seem lucky. It's not luck. It's alignment repeated often enough to become automatic. They've entered the gratitude loop, and that loop shifts their baseline vibration permanently. But here's where most people interrupt the loop. They wait for external evidence before giving thanks. This delays the frequency, and when the frequency is delayed, the field delays in response. What they don't realize is this. Gratitude is the gravity of manifestation. It pulls your desired outcome toward you, not because you're worthy, but because you're now vibrating in resonant match with it. Let's use a metaphor. Picture your field like a galaxy. When you're in a state of lack, your energy is dispersed, floating debris, uncentered, chaotic. But when you drop into real gratitude, you create a gravitational center, a black hole of coherence. And everything that matches your vibration begins to orbit toward you, not randomly, but magnetically. Gratitude becomes the organizing principle of your field. And the bigger it grows, the faster things spiral in. Now let's talk identity. The key to maintaining the gratitude loop is to make gratitude your default state, not just a practice. It must become part of your identity. I am someone who is always finding things to be grateful for, not as a task, but as a lens, a way of seeing reality. This isn't denial of pain, it's recognition of alignment. Even in contrast, there is something working for you. Even in delay, there is something preparing you. When you see that, when you start to thank not only the light but the lessons, you reach a new level of quantum maturity. And that level, that's where things speed up. Because at that level, you're not just manifesting isolated events, you're collapsing into a whole new version of yourself. And that version is magnetic. That version doesn't attract. That version emits a signal so clean, so centered, so grateful, that timelines rearrange to match it. But this loop can also collapse. If you begin doubting, questioning, measuring how much progress you've made, you collapse the energy back into separation. Gratitude becomes conditional again. And conditional gratitude is just disguised expectation. It carries the vibration of "I'll be grateful when," which tells the field, it's not here yet. To stay in the loop, you must remove the conditions. You must feel thankful regardless. Gratitude without needing. That's the sweet spot. Because when you stop needing proof, you become the proof. You radiate stability, and the field cannot ignore stability. It must respond to it. Let's pause here. What would your day feel like if you began every morning with, "Thank you for everything that's coming today, seen and unseen"? What if you moved through your schedule looking not for problems, but for patterns of alignment already blooming beneath the surface? What if, instead of asking, "What do I need to fix?" you asked, "What can I appreciate now?" That shift would change your field, and your field would change your future. This is how you build momentum. Gratitude, at first, is a choice. But with practice, it becomes a conditioned state. And when it's conditioned deeply enough, it becomes your baseline, your personality, your identity. And identity is what the universe responds to. You are not manifesting with your words. You are manifesting with your nervous system, with your felt frequency, with your gratitude field. And that field, once activated and stabilized, becomes your new gravitational center. But there's still one piece most people overlook. Gratitude is powerful, yes. But what happens when you're still entangled in lack? When old programs pull you back into waiting, needing, chasing? That's what we'll address next. Because once you learn how to use gratitude to collapse lack itself, you'll never be held back again. If you've ever felt stuck, like no matter how much you visualize, meditate, or try to align, nothing truly moves. It's not because you're doing something wrong, It's because you're still vibrating in lack, often without realizing it. Lack doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. It hides behind spiritual language. I'm manifesting. I'm working on receiving. I'm aligning my vibration. But underneath those words is waiting, watching, wanting. A quiet but constant emotional message. It's not here yet. And that message is powerful. Not because it's true, but because it becomes the signal you send into the field. Remember, the quantum field doesn't speak English. It speaks emotion. It speaks vibration. And your consistent emotional baseline is the instruction set you're programming into reality. If that baseline is lack, then no matter how eloquent your affirmations, the universe reflects. She is someone who's still becoming, not someone who already is. That's the truth most avoid. Because it's easier to keep trying than to sit in the stillness and face the emotional habit of not having. Easier to stay busy than to ask, do I even know how it feels to already have what I want? But here's where gratitude becomes the great disruptor. Gratitude ends the search. It tells the field, this is complete. I already have it. And in that moment, that honest, full-body emotional certainty, lack has no place to live. It's burned up in the vibration of appreciation. Gratitude doesn't fix lack. It transcends it. Think of it this way. Lack is a frequency of distance. It creates emotional space between you and your desire. The more you feel it, the more timelines you stretch out. The manifestation stays out there. Gratitude collapses the distance. It doesn't reach. It doesn't chase. It anchors. It pulls the desired reality into your now by becoming its emotional signature before the evidence appears. This is the shift most never make, because it requires letting go of the comfort of craving, the identity of the seeker, the story of one day when it finally arrives, and instead, stepping into something far more vulnerable, the emotional exposure of already having. Can you feel abundant while the numbers still say otherwise? Can you feel loved while the partner hasn't yet appeared? Can you celebrate the arrival before the arrival? That's mastery. That's magnetic. That's manifestation. And here's the most radical part. Gratitude doesn't just make you feel better. It makes you unavailable for lack. The two states cannot coexist. When you're truly in gratitude, lack dissolves, not suppressed, not ignored, but overwritten. Gratitude becomes your new emotional operating system. Let's pause. What has been your dominant emotion this week? Has it been trust or waiting, sufficiency, or silently hoping something changes? If you're honest, you might see the subtle hum of lack behind the surface. And that's okay. This awareness is your pivot point, because now you can choose something higher, not by forcing it, but by feeling it. Feel the version of you who's already living it. Feel their relief, their ease, their peace, their knowing. Now feel thankful for that version, not because they're better, but because they already exist inside you, waiting to be felt, not achieved. Let this next sentence be your turning point. I let gratitude be my signal to the field. Type it in the comments now, not as a performance, but as a declaration. Let it be your vibrational anchor, a message to your future self, encoded in the present. Because once you claim that identity, the field begins to respond. Gratitude becomes your atmosphere. Lack loses its grip. The tension fades, and what once felt far feels familiar. Here's the deeper truth. Lack is not a result of what's missing. It's a result of what you're focusing on. Shift your focus to the smallest possible alignment, the breath, the sun, the heartbeat, and suddenly, gratitude has space to enter. And when it does, it brings friends, momentum, clarity, synchronicity, direction. You no longer act out of need, but from abundance. You no longer chase signs because life becomes the sign. You no longer search for clues because you become the evidence. All because you chose to stop waiting and start thanking. But we're not done yet, because gratitude does something even more mystical and more scientific. It doesn't just cancel lack, It selects timelines. It's not just an emotional state. It's a quantum selector. And when you see what gratitude does to your place in the multiverse, you'll never treat it as just a nice feeling again. That's where we're going next. And the field is already waiting for you there. What if every version of your life already exists? Not metaphorically, literally. One where you're still struggling, one where you're free, one where you're loved deeply, another where you're invisible, one where your dreams are real, not just imagined, not far away, but running parallel to this moment. Quantum physics calls this the many worlds interpretation, the idea that all possible outcomes already exist, branching infinitely, and you, the observer, are constantly selecting which version becomes real based on your state of being. This means you're not manifesting your dream life from scratch. You're collapsing into the version of reality where it already exists. But here's the question. What determines which version you collapse into? The answer is as simple as it is revolutionary: emotional alignment. And few emotional states are more powerful for alignment than gratitude. Gratitude isn't just a nice practice or spiritual virtue. In quantum terms, it's a selector, a frequency signature that locates and activates the timeline where you already have the thing you desire. You're not asking for it. You're not pulling it in. You're choosing to occupy the vibrational address of the version of you that has already received it. Let's make this tangible. Every possible version of your life is encoded in the field, like songs on a cosmic radio. You don't create the song, you tune to it. You don't force the melody, you become resonant with it. And gratitude? Gratitude is the dial. It fine-tunes your internal vibration to match the reality where what you desire is already true. The moment you feel gratitude for what hasn't yet arrived, as if it already has, you've changed your position in the quantum field. Let that sink in. Gratitude shifts you, not just emotionally, but dimensionally. And the field, which is neutral and immediate, doesn't question your reasons. It responds to your resonance. If you radiate the frequency of "I already have it," the field says, let's collapse the timeline where that's true. This is not magic. This is quantum coherence, and coherence is the key. Gratitude generates coherence, not only in your emotional state, but in your electromagnetic field. We've already seen that heart math studies prove this. Your heart becomes rhythmically aligned. Your brain quiets into alpha. You move out of survival and into signal clarity. And signal clarity is how you lock into a single timeline amidst the infinite. Now here's the part that most manifesting methods don't tell you. It's not your desire that collapses the wave. It's your assumption. And true assumption is not mental. It's emotional. It's vibrational. You become so grateful, so steady in your emotional certainty, that your system stabilizes in a new identity. Not the one who's on the way, but the one who's already arrived. That's what Neville Goddard meant when he said, "You must feel the wish fulfilled. Not speak it, not repeat it, feel it. Live from it, give thanks for it, even when no evidence exists." Especially when no evidence exists. Because the absence of evidence is the greatest invitation to test your identity. To ask, am I still tuning to the timeline of desire, or have I slipped back into the timeline of lack? And that question, asked from deep awareness, is a portal to the version of you that chooses timelines through presence, not performance, through resonance, not resistance. Now pause for a moment. Think about something you've been trying to manifest, something big, a quantum leap in your finances, your relationship, your sense of purpose. Can you feel, even briefly, what it would be like to already live in that version of reality? Not to visualize it from distance, but to step into it from within, to thank life as if the leap has already happened, to breathe as if the shift has already landed, to walk as if the version of you that already has it is now the one walking. That moment of emotional certainty, if you can stabilize it, becomes the collapsing force. The field does not resist that kind of coherence. It doesn't delay it. It organizes around it. This is the architecture of selection, and it is not governed by your calendar. It's not linear. It's vibrational. Quantum jumps happen not when you work harder, but when you vibrate cleaner.
And gratitude is the cleanser, the purifier, the tuner. So no, you're not attracting a better future. You're choosing it, not with your logic, but with your frequency. This is why people often experience sudden shifts after a deep emotional release, a moment where they break through resistance and drop into genuine appreciation, not for a result, but for the now. That frequency snaps them into a different version of reality, one where things move faster,
Flow smoother, open wider, not because they tried harder, but because they matched a new path. And gratitude was the access point. Now here's the final twist. The timeline you're longing for is also longing for you. It's not passive, it's magnetic. But it cannot merge with a version of you stuck in doubt, or delay, or waiting for proof. It can only meet the version of you who's already living it emotionally. So how do you become that version? You stop chasing evidence. You stop needing guarantees. You sit in silence and say, "Thank you for the reality that's already mine. Thank you for the version of me who already lives it. I feel her. I honor her. I am her." And when you do that, when you feel that, something begins to crack open. Reality bends. The shift begins. And in the final chapter, you'll learn how to stabilize this vibration as a permanent part of your identity. Not a practice you visit, but a state you live from. Because gratitude isn't just how you manifest. It's who you become when you stop resisting your power. There comes a point in your journey when gratitude is no longer something you practice. It's something you are. It's not something you visit in the morning, then forget by afternoon. It's not a reaction to blessings or a temporary emotional high. It's not another tool in your manifestation routine. It becomes your baseline frequency, the vibration you return to, not just when things go right, but especially when they don't. Because in that state, you're no longer waiting for the universe to prove something. You're embodying the knowing that it already has. This is what it means to become the vibration of gratitude. Let's be honest. Many people will never reach this point, not because they can't, but because they're still negotiating with the field. Still saying, "I'll be grateful when it shows up." Still operating under the illusion that reality must change first, so that they can finally feel safe. But the quantum field is not moved by negotiation. It's moved by identity. And once gratitude becomes your identity, you no longer live by cause and effect. You become the cause. You start influencing reality from the inside out. You create from coherence, not chaos. You stop chasing. You start radiating. Let's bring this into your body now. Close your eyes for a moment. Drop into your breath. Feel the space behind your chest. Not the thoughts in your mind, but the vibration in your heart. Imagine a golden current moving through your chest. Not outward, but inward. A soft pulse. Steady, silent, peaceful. This is gratitude. Now, without needing to name anything specific, allow yourself to feel thankful. Not because something just happened, but because you're alive, because you can choose, because in this exact moment, you're connected to a field of infinite potential, and you can feel it moving through you. You don't need evidence. You are the evidence. That's the vibration of gratitude. And from this place, you don't ask. You affirm. You don't wish. You remember. You don't try to become. You be. Let this feeling stretch through your nervous system, down your spine, into your breath. Let it rewrite your posture, your thoughts, your tone of voice. Because when you walk through life as the vibration of gratitude, you don't have to do as much. Reality starts meeting you halfway, not because you forced it, but because you stabilized a frequency that matches your chosen timeline. This is the turning point. And yes, it takes practice. It takes returning again and again, especially when life pulls you into fear. But over time, something beautiful happens. Your nervous system adapts. Your emotions recalibrate. Gratitude stops being something you try to feel. It becomes something you can't not feel. It becomes home. Now listen closely. The version of you that lives in total coherence, the one who creates effortlessly, attracts naturally, lives peacefully, That version is not far away. It's not waiting for the right timing or the perfect alignment. That version of you is already encoded in the field, and you connect to them through feeling, through presence, through identity, through gratitude. Because gratitude is the signature vibration of your highest self. And once you hold that signature long enough, your external world can't help but reflect it. Not because you demanded it, but because you became it. Now, if this journey resonated with something deep inside you, something ancient, something ready, then what's awakening in you is not just awareness, it's remembrance. And remembrance is the foundation of power. So if you feel called to stabilize this frequency even further, to embody it not just once, but consistently, across your relationships, finances, purpose, and identity, then I invite you to go deeper. The Awaken Your Quantum Power ebook was created for this exact purpose. It's not just a read, it's a realignment. Inside, you'll find practices, activations, and frameworks that help you not only understand quantum manifestation, but live it, day by day, breath by breath. It's your next step if you're ready to collapse old versions of yourself and shift fully into coherence, simplicity, and magnetic clarity. You'll find the link to the ebook in the pinned comment below. Follow it when your intuition says yes, because the version of you who is already living your highest timeline, they're waiting, not somewhere far away, but inside you right now, alive, grateful, ready, and from here, everything changes.